thanks to the previous speakers, the frameworks of indigenous people are already set, and therefore I think in the end of this very long and day, I would like to present you one of the cases actually of small indigenous people living in the Pskov region. Actually, that is the area in the northwest of Russia where I am from. So, just a few comments about the region. The Pskov region is located in the northwest of Russia, actually very close to the border of Estonia. It's actually 50 kilometers to the border with the European Union, a bit more to Latvia and so Belarus. And the area itself is rather big, and the population is not. And nowadays it's considered to be a sort of a periphery, so to say, but in the old times it used to be a very important city, a very important area across roads and waterways. And in medieval times it was in Hanzik, it was a Hansa city, and in a couple of years' time we're going to have International Hanseatic Day. So in a couple of years' time you're welcome to Pskov. And so why Seto? The Seto or Seto, as we call these people in Russian scientific literature, is an indigenous ethnic and linguistic minority in the northwest of Russia. And so what is special about them? They can be also met in Krasnoyarsk, which is in Siberia, and they used to be in one territory which is called Setoma, or the land of Seto. And what is special about these people? Nowadays, these people are divided by the national border. Half of these people live in Estonia, in the European Union, and partly these people are living in Russia. And therefore this actually changes influence greatly on the lifestyle of these people, on their traditions, on their language, and on many other things linked to these people. And a bit of a history about these people. In the beginning of the 20th century, the population of Seto was between 15 and 20,000 people. But starting from 1908, or approximately at that time, the population of these people decreased greatly, around 10 times in Estonia and more than 30 times in Russia. And there are several reasons for that. First of all, migration to other regions in Russia is the result of reforms in the beginning of the century. Then some people were moved to other parts of Russia in the middle of the 20th century. And after the Soviet Union collapsed, many people left Russia to Estonia because the language of Seto is very similar to Estonian language, and in Estonia the Seto people could get education, higher education in Estonian language. And as a result, nowadays we have around 200 people living in the Pskov region. Yeah, what are the problems? Actually, people are being assimilated with either Estonians or Russians, and this is of course a bit of a problem. Then of course, once the population is decreasing, therefore it's a bit of a problem to keep up their tradition, to keep up their traditional economy, to keep up their language. Their language is also a problem, because if people would like to keep up their language, an area of compact settlement is needed. And in this case, taking into account that it's a border, national border, and therefore it might be a bit of a problem for some people to cross the border. You need visas, you need passports, and therefore these links are also lost. Also, taking about those particular areas where these people are living, In most cases, these people were involved in agriculture, and so the competitiveness of this traditional approach to the economy is rather low, and therefore the rate of unemployment rate is rather high in those regions. Therefore, people are leaving the territories. There are few young people are left there, and of course it's a problem for these people to survive. And there is also a problem for self-identification. And I will say a bit later about that. The university is doing regular researches, and after in 90s, people, the Seto people, very often call themselves Estonians, because actually they thought that it might be actually good once the language was similar, and actually taking into account that many of them left the country. Nowadays, so they call themselves either Seto or Russians, and therefore it's a bit of a problem of self-identification. So I call these slide solutions, and but of course they are not. First of all, probably might be also of interest. According to the Russian census of 2010, so the number of minor indigenous people in Russia is a bit more than 300,000. And Seto in 2009 were included into the list of indigenous people. That is of course good enough, because there is a possibility to keep up them somehow, and as the result of this, the long-term program to support the Seto people in 2011-2014 was developed by the regional administration, and the focus or the main activities of the program were focused on economic issues, somehow to keep up their traditional approach to economy. I will repeat it once again. It's agriculture in most cases, social and cultural issues, and as a result, two ethno-cultural set of villages were constructed, roads and other infrastructure was improved, and for crafts, festivals are organized, and so on and so forth. And also political measures are also considered. And there is a community board which was established by the governor of the Pskov region in 2011 on international and religious sort of relations, and where Seto plays a very important role, and they are very active in this board. And the university is also doing actually a lot in studying these small indigenous people, and regularly starting with 1999, the university, the researchers, young researchers, PhD students are taking part in research, and as a result, more than 400 participants in total took part in the research, and the research actually is a survey, is a questionnaire developed by the scientists of the university, which consists of 6 main parts. And the first part of this questionnaire is devoted to ethnical self-identification, like nationality, name, ancestors, etc. Then the second part is language, knowledge, communication skill, and the language people use in everyday communication, because even if people know the language, they do not often use it in everyday communication, which is also a bit of a problem for them. Then the third part, ethnical differentiation features like religion. And what is interesting about this Seto, they are Orthodox, and for example, if we compare them to Estonians, mostly those people are Lutherans, and actually it's a bit of a problem. It's not enough just to divide people into these two groups according to religion, but you should also look a little bit deeper, like national, costume and many other things, which helps you to differentiate from other groups. Then the fourth part, just demographical issues like children, relatives, and things like that. Then the fifth part, names and surnames. Some of them use Russian names, some of them Estonian names. And yeah, the last one is some general information about sex, age, profession, and so on and so forth. And yeah, actually this research is very helpful because it helps to understand the culture much better, and at the same time it helps to attract attention to these people. And actually, considering this problem, yeah, of course it's possible to say about prospects of developing these people further, and in some respects they're actually quite successful. And taking into account that program I mentioned earlier, nowadays the regional administration is considering a new sort of long-term program which will also be devoted to keeping up these small indigenous people further. Also, there are joint projects between Estonia and Russia where the focus is on tourism, on entrepreneurship, on ecological issues, and actually these people actually are also quite active in implementing joint sort of submitting and implementing joint projects, international projects. And as a result actually of such projects, it might be possible to develop tourism, for example. And that's what I wanted to start with. We were talking about extractives today quite a lot, but there are no extractives in the Pskov region. No oil, no gas, no precious stone, whatever. And this is a bit of a challenge on the one hand, but on the other hand there are lots of probably benefits linked to this, because no ecological problems. So some of the problems discussed earlier today actually probably are not on the agenda. And tourism actually is priority number one for the regional authorities, and therefore these people might be, and actually they are also doing it quite well, developing just sort of tourist routes on both sides of the border. They're trying to be included. They're doing a lot to be included into the tourist routes which are typical for the Pskov region, because there are many other sites which tourists like to visit, like fortresses, just in many other destinations. And Seto is actually has very good chances to be included into such routes. And also probably one more opportunity for them is to develop economically, because traditional way of doing agriculture still might be also one of the possibilities to develop these small people further. And for example, flax sort of growing was extremely popular and traditional in the Pskov region, and also sort of fishery and many other things were typical. And therefore it's also sort of one of their possibilities to keep up and develop for these minor people in the future. So I think that is actually it briefly. If you have any questions, I will be happy to answer them.
Great, thank you, George. Very efficient presentation, and draws attention to a people that I guess not many people have heard of, and also the interesting point that they don't have extractive industries as a potential economic opportunity. And so what does that mean for them? Does anyone have any, straight away, Karen?
Thank you very much. So I thought it would be interesting to relate this issue of the Seto people and the Russian context, and maybe also the legacy of the Soviet Union, to the issue of public participation. So when we were discussing these people at an earlier stage, you informed me that they live mainly of products from the forest, like berries, and they also have agriculture, but now there is an emerging sort of industrial forestry industry, or forestry industry going on or developing, and at the same time there are also prospects to develop tourism, which is also something that is being considered with regard to Greenland, not forestry, but tourism. So I would be interested in hearing how these people are involved in decision processes concerning their future. Is there something in there that we can relate to the discussion that we've been having today?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Karen. And actually, I mentioned this council organized by the regional administration, by the governor of the regional administration. And actually, they get together regularly, if I'm not mistaken, once a month, where people like, you know, SETA and other people, representative sort of different minorities living in the Pskov region, get together and discuss different problems. And actually, I took part in a couple of them, in a couple of such meetings as a representative of the university, and I would say that actually, so this set of people are heard there, and actually they're quite active in this. So this is actually one of the examples probably of their public participation, and their involvement is in what is going around them and in the Pskov, actually in the area where they're living in. And so what about sort of your first comment about sort of timber production, wood processing, and other issues? Actually, it might be also sort of one of the possibilities for further development of these people, because timber sort of processing is developing quite rapidly in the region, and actually, yeah, it might be a possibility for them to develop further, because actually there are lots of woods and around them, and yeah, they might be involved in this. Frankly speaking, I do not know the exact figures, whether they are doing it at the moment or not, but yeah, just considering such an option, probably yes, it would be just a very good possibility. Yeah, and taking into account that it not necessarily can be only wood, but you know, sort of non-wood resources as well, which are also popular nowadays, like, you know, berries, mushrooms, and other stuff, which are getting more and more popular. This can be also just one of the possibilities, but of course it won't bring as much money as oil or gas.
I would like to ask about, correct me if I'm wrong, but Estonia, Tallinn, as I remember, it became of the European Union in 2008.
Something, I'm not sure about the exact.
But I've been there for 1.5 years ago, and I was told that even that the people got down on the living standards, they have increased their lifestyle through the years after they came into the European Union, and I think that was very positive, because it was I could see that it was a very big tourist area. We came from Greenland to Tallinn, and a lot of people came there too. And as I remember, the history is Estonia has been part of the Denmark in 12th century, and I was told too that is there where the Danish flag came down from the heaven. You may remember.
Yeah. So you see, actually, there were lots of things happening in that region in old times, actually.
That's right.
And yeah, so yeah, I just agree with you. That's it, probably.
It's a quick question that may have a long answer, but I wanted to ask you about the right to use the Seto language, for example, in school and in public administration, and whether having a UNESCO designation made a difference to that, if there's any efforts in that regard.
Well, actually, as far as I know, no difference. And yeah, taking into account that, for example, in Russia there are very few of them. They use the language, but actually, of course, it's not obligatory. They can do it, but probably most at festivals and at different events they're organizing. As to Estonia, it's a bit of a problem because actually Estonians, they, as far as I know, never considered actually Seto as a separate peoples. Russia did, so as a small indigenous people, but Estonia did not, because they consider them to be Estonians, and the language is a sort of a dialect of Estonian. And therefore, actually, if we have a look at the statistics in Estonian and in Russia as well, by the way, in Soviet city in old times, and yeah, therefore, actually, there is no, just a problem or a must or whatever, just to use the sort of national language. And probably that is a bit of a problem.
Just a side comment related to that, which is funny, not funny, is that actually the Russians in Latvia, Estonia, and Lithuania is a minority unrecognized, which has several issues.
Yeah, but it's a bit different. Yeah, issue.
Would you like to?
I'm just looking at Seto and some different things. Do they have their own flag?
Yeah, they have their own.
Is it this one?
Yeah, they have their own flag, and it looks to.
So maybe it's the Danish flag.
It looks like, yeah, it's sort of ornaments. Actually, the old Seto people used to use, but actually it was introduced not so long ago. I think 2011 or something like that.
But they don't have self-government or anything. They don't have self-government or anything like that.
No.
They're just there.
No.
Thank you. Okay, any more questions?
Okay.
We're coming to the end of the afternoon.